Hermit Ducks, it's Simon here. Welcome back to the Hermit's Cave. Hope everybody's having a lovely weekend. It's Sunday afternoon, almost 2 o'clock. And yeah, if you was in Cup of Ketchup and Cards last night, you will have heard me said that I was going to come on today to give a little bit of an update on my, well, fairly recently, 2 or 3 videos back, on my decks that I'd be working with throughout the month of July. And I always show a deck for the morning for my intention and a deck for the evening for reflection and oracle decks. And I gave a bit of an update on the oracle deck, so I actually bought another deck from the same artist and merged them into a super deck. If you want to see that, it's towards the end of last night's Cup of Ketchup and Cards. But I believe in being really honest. Even when I review decks, you know, if I find things that don't gel with me, I will highlight them because I think it's really important. Because a lot of subscribers I have said to me in the past, I like your reviews because we seem to have the same taste, and I feel it's quite a responsibility on content creators, particularly if they're receiving decks for the purpose of review, i.e. they're not paying for them, to still be honest. It's not about, you know, oh, I'll just say I like it. And I think there's more integrity there, also from the people who are sending it to you. And I've often had people say to me, please be honest with the deck if I'm sending it to you. Usually, I will always try and find the positives because this is someone's work. And I think it would be remiss of me just to say, you know, just to focus on negatives, because there are positives as well. In most decks. And if I get to have a sight of it beforehand and I just know that deck isn't for me, I'm not going to do a dirty on the creator and say, yeah, send it to me just for content and then, you know, rubbish it. I will say to them, no, it's not for me, but I can recommend somebody who might like it, and then it's up to them whether they send them or not. I know I've covered that before, but I think it's important to put that at the beginning, because what I'm about to say is purely my views and how, even only a week in, I started on Monday evening, which was the 30th, the night before the 1st, with my July decks, because I've made the video and then I thought, right, well, I may as well just start with it. So not quite a week in. And there's one deck in particular. So the decks that I showed was for tarot, the Metanoia, which, oh, chef's kiss, beautiful Marseille deck, and then the Hexen 2.0, which is this deck. And I have really tried. Can you see this okay? Do I need to bring the camera down a little bit? That might be a little bit better. I've really tried with this deck, and what I will say is there isn't a guidebook. You do get a little, see if I can find it here, it'll be in the box, a little pamphlet, is there anything I can describe it as, like a fold out. And I've talked about easy access and language and things like that when I did the review. I don't find that very helpful. People have left comments saying that there is a book coming out later in the year, so I think I will give that book a go to try and understand a little bit more about this deck. What I'll also say is that this deck isn't going anywhere. I am going to keep it, but this for me shouldn't have been a deck that I pulled for, you know, my reflections on the day. This, for me, should have been a study deck first, and it's hard to study a deck when there is no accompanying guidebook. I don't know if the guidebook is part of the Hexen 5.0, which is coming out later in the year, or whether that's a different deck. But trying to do 3-card reading, let's just turn 3 random cards, and being confronted with that as a reflection for the day just made my head What I will say, again, full disclosure, those of you who are subscribed to my channel will know that I have a neurodiversity, a neurodiverse, I don't want to say condition, always makes it sound like you're suffering from something, but I have attention deficit disorder, ADD. I got diagnosed at the age of 31, I'm now 55. No, I'm not, I'm 54. I'm adding years to my age. And therefore, you know, it took me to the age of 31 because those diagnoses didn't happen when I was at school. So in 31 years, I built up a lot of coping strategies and masking techniques and all that sort of thing. But being presented, if you are, and it's going to be different for everybody because it's a spectrum, right? But if you're like me, being presented with images like this is complete cognitive overload. I look at this and I can't decipher. We've got the Nine of Pentacles, the Magician, and the Nine of Swords. Now, if those images weren't there and I was just going on there, you know, the cards, I know what the Nine of Pentacles represents. Do I see it here? The Magician, you know, Nine of Swords. I'd love a book to go in depth. But anyway, the cards for me are really busy and layered with information, and it makes it difficult for me to focus on one message at a time or to extract a meaning quickly. And that's something that I've been able to do with more traditional tarot decks. I'm able to lay down the cards and my mind forms a picture, and almost instantly I think, aha, I know what this is telling me. This just throws up noise. I actually, even though it's images, there's a noise connected with it. A lot of the symbolism in this deck is quite abstract. It doesn't use classic tarot imagery, obviously, like the Rider-Waite-Smith, which is my preferred system and one that I'm used to reading with, or even pips. You know, with pips, I connect numerology with a pip, so I find that that isn't a struggle at all. Because I've learned how to read it. This, that just breaks the mold and does something completely different for my reflections, but I'd even struggle in the mornings as an intention as well. I struggle to stay grounded in the meaning. I'm just off and I'm like, whoa, you know. So I think what I've discovered is that I prefer simplicity, I prefer clear visuals, and I really appreciate quick, intuitive hits. And this deck, in the evenings for the last week, has left me feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, and it's uninviting for me. As I said, I do believe it's a deck to study. For me, it will be a study deck, and one that I'm going to keep for study purposes, but not one for daily readings, at least until that study has taken place. So lesson learned. Even, you know, I've been reading tarot. I first picked up my tarot deck 38 years ago. And we're constantly, you know, lifelong learning, right? We're constantly being schooled by tarot. And I thought that I could use this deck for my daily readings and perhaps spend a bit of time on it and get some intuitive hits from it. But alas, as I said, it left me feeling very frustrated and completely overwhelmed. And that's not what I want at the end of my day before going to bed. So I have to admit defeat for now, at least until there is a book and I do some study with it. But at the moment, I'm not even thinking that I'll use this for daily draws anyway. We will see. Never say never, but that's where I'm at. So, what deck am I going to swap it out for? Well, as I said, having been left feeling quite frustrated and overwhelmed, I wanted something quite familiar, quite comforting, something that was easy to read. And I believe it was Mand from Mystic Mand who showed this deck, I believe. Or it might have been Mary from Gently Living Out Loud. Oh, anyway, they mentioned this deck and I was like, yeah, I have that deck and I absolutely love it. So I've chosen to go with the Green Witch Tarot. I absolutely love this. Now, there is since this, and I got this, I think, in 2016. I did, because I'll explain how I know that. I even know the date I bought it. It was Halloween, 31st of October, 2016, because I've just recently bought a backup copy, and I'll explain why on that as well. And I love it. And there is a whole sort of plethora now of these Llewellyn sets. So you've got, you know, there's the Green Witch, but then there's Everyday Witch, there's the Witch's Tarot, there's the Witch's Garden Tarot, the Wizard's Tarot. There's the whole set out there. But out of all of them, this is my absolute favourite deck. It's just wonderful. Now, I got this, like I said, in 2016. I edged it in red to bring out the roses on the back. Most people would edge this in green. I decided to be different. Now, when it came, because it was 2016, it came in one of these god-awful giant tuck boxes from Llewellyn, which this has seen better days. And then it has this in tray here for the cards to sit in. They still move about. Just awful. But the good thing about when Llewellyn did these decks with the awful tuck boxes, in fact, I'm going to lift the camera up again. Sorry to keep moving it about, but I want things to be in frame. So you might see that better now. So this is the tuck box. I mean, it's not the worst, but they're not great. But when they used to have those decks, those sets, I should say, the decks were on really nice, thick cardstock. Really, really decent. And I loved it. And then they started bringing out new decks. I think the first one I got was the Wonderland Tarot, and I just remember thinking, oh no, these cards are dreadful. Hidden Realm was another one. By the time I found the community and jumped on the Hidden Realm bandwagon, I got it and was really disappointed. But I sent some chocolates over to a subscriber in New York, and in exchange she sent me a care package, and in there was just in a little bag the Hidden Realm, but it was on this cardstock. And then I thought, wow, I've got the perfect thing. I've got a nice book, I've got a sturdy box and the original cards. So I bought the new, well, it doesn't even say it's a new version. It just comes now in the solid magnetic box, which is really nice and sturdy and protects the decks. So I can chuck this old tuck box. The books don't change, because now if you buy Llewellyn as well, if it's a new tarot, brand new tarot, the books are glossy and colour images. This is the new one. See, I don't even know, this is the old one. I don't even think the date will have changed or anything on the inside cover. 2015, it probably still says it on this one. And as you can see, it's the same. the book hasn't changed, but that's fine. I'm going to gift one of these books and the new deck to a friend anyway who's just starting to come into tarot. Oh, it does. It says 2021. So that's the only way you can tell. It says originally 2015 and 2021, but in this one, so they could have produced it in colour. It just says 2015. So that's the old book. The guidebook is really nice, actually. It's beautifully written. There's a section after every card for your own notes. I love Lord of the Shadows. I am going to show you the deck anyway, because I just love it so much. Look at that, the High Priest. It's glorious. So, cardstock. This was the old Llewellyn cardstock. This is the new. I've not even undone it yet. So if I put them side by side and we move over, the difference is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Almost, all but one card, a whole suit difference when it comes to thickness. I mean, why? I don't get it. I really don't get it. I know that obviously their production costs, as in Llewellyn's production costs, are going to go up if they're going to these new magnetic boxes. They're going to be more expensive to produce than the tuck box style. But I mean, the cardstock is just... Some people don't mind it, that it's really thin and bendy, but look, it's really glossy as well compared to... Do you see the difference? There is a shine because it's silky, but on this, you actually see the ring light. So, I mean, the colours are gorgeous and it's a beautiful deck, but these are very, very glossy. So, I prefer this version. But it's not bad, let's be honest. The backs, some people didn't like the backs. They said it felt too Christmassy. For me, it just represents Yule, which is part of that, you know, the what's it called? The Sabbats, the Wheel of the Year. That's what I was trying to think of. But yeah, and it's a very, very witchy deck. One of my pet peeves is, and I talked again about this last night, about the changing of suits, etc. This deck does that, but only for chalices. Because if you're thinking this is a witchy deck, the Green Witch deck, it's all altar items really. So Athame's for swords, but yeah, I mean, it's a blade. Athame, got no issue with that. And cups, chalices, it's the same thing. The rest is still pentacles, which is very witchy, and a wand, of course, is very witchy. And then we have some changes to the major arcana. So we'll have witch and a pagan theme instead of a Christian theme. But we'll have a look at the deck anyway. I mean, I know this is an oldie, but as this the title of this video, you know, it's ditching a new deck for an old flame. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. Reuniting with an old flame. When, you know, when we dump someone and then we still harbour after an old flame. Kind of reminds me of that. I've gone back to something that I feel familiar, it gives me comfort, and I'm excited now for the remaining 3 and a bit weeks to really work with this deck each evening and use for my reflections. So let's have a bit of a look through. You might be asking, well, why are you doing a walkthrough of this version and not your trusted version? And the reason for that is because if you are seeing this deck for the first time today, this is your only option, unless you can go on to a auction site and try and establish whether the Green Witch Tarot that they're selling is indeed from the old Llewellyn stock of pre-2019. probably, you know, I would ask to see inside the book and see if it says 2015 or 2021 or whatever it was. Anyway, so the 0 card is the Green Man, and you'll see this is lush. It's folkloric fantasy. The images really draw you into the scene. It's very earth-centric. It is very witchy, and I think this is probably inspired. I mean, it's not Deborah Blake. This is Anne Mora is the creator of the deck, and the artist is Kiri Ostergaard Leonard. But this kind of reminds me of Everyday Witch. But of course, the magician is the witch. You know, she's there, she's creating, she's making magic, she's working with her cauldron and her witch's tools. I love the crow in the tree as well. Yeah, and it's full of forests, herbs and animals, lots of elemental magic. It's richly detailed, but also really readable, and blends that sort of realism with mythic symbolism as well. We do have a high priestess. We've got these standing stones, look, in a circle, and she's performing magic by the moon. Our Earth Mother is gorgeous. Notice as well the cards are borderless. So each card fills its frame from edge to edge. There is this kind of scroll banner at the bottom, which displays the card name. So Earth Mother rather than, I mean, for me, key 3 is Gaia. Earth Mother, it sits. Empress doesn't really fit into a witchy pagan themed deck. And then we have the Horned God for our Emperor card. Look at the animals. And again, this really nods to a later deck that came, which is the Forest of Enchantment. This is kind of like the parent of all those other decks. I think, again, discussed last night in the live, but I think if this deck was released today, people will be leaving comments saying, is this AI art? But it isn't, but it is a modern digital fantasy illustration. So it mixes, you know, realistic human and animal forms with stylized magical environments like we just saw, you know, the Green Man, etc. 6 for our lovers is the Lady and the Lord. I have a Lady and a Lord Philippa Bower statue set that's facing me now. I love that. The Battle Wagon for our Chariot card. I love the Crone. I mean, look at that for the Strength card. Isn't that gorgeous? See, let's just compare colour saturation as well, because that does seem very, very saturated. And I know it's different cardstock, but, and that sometimes makes changes or alters kind of like colour depth and saturation and stuff like that. So it's going to be right at the bottom, isn't it? Da, da, da. If I go to the bottom now and flip it, it's going to be in the middle, so I need to see it through. Watch it be the last card. Oh my gosh. Almost, that's how many cards are left. Let's have a look. Very slight, very slight. You can probably see it more in the Lion. This has a more orangey, a darker browny orangey. Face is a lot lighter here. The sky, a little bit more blue, but And the banners at the bottom look like different greens as well. That's got like a grassy green, but nothing major. But I do prefer the original, which is a good job, because that's the one I'm sticking with. See, this one seems quite dark, but that's the Holly King, which is our hermit. So we're getting the winter scene because it's the Holly King. The Wheel of the Year look with each of the Sabbats. I think if you are a witch, if you are pagan, this deck will really, really speak to you. I love the labyrinth engraved into the standing stone. And we've got a nod to the Justice card because you've got the scales here, you've got a Triskel. Oh, it's beautiful, so beautiful. The Oak King. So we've just seen that we've got the Holly King and the Oak King, and they fight. Look, I was drawing a lemniscate here. I just find this deck really enthralling, really charming. Look at that, Lord of the Shadows for our death card, being led here. The Deep Well, the Moth. I just find myself being really drawn in by this rustic, expressive art style that really sparks your imagination. We have the She for our Temperance card. It's very approachable. I think it's quite beginner friendly. I know a lot of the archetypes have been renamed, but you know, think of it this way: if you're a young pagan and you're buying a tarot deck, and you know, I'm all RWS, I love it, but that's my history with tarot. But if you're a young pagan or a young witch and you buy a tarot deck and you're filled with Christian iconography and images, then yeah, it's not going to be a great experience. But I find that this, look at these people dancing in the background. Have I noticed that before over the years? I think I have, but I've focused on what's happening in the foreground. So I find, you know, for that sense, it's really beginner friendly because there's clear symbolism. It's bright, it's welcoming, it's beautiful aesthetic. The moon is stunning. Gorgeous sun card. I mean, what is there not to love about this? And look at that, a harvest. Look at little elves or gnomes or sprites, however we want to call them. And then we have the world tree. Again, with the different seasons represented here. The cycle of the tree. Beautiful. I really think a lot of thought by the creators has gone into this. I believe that Anne Mora is a witch and perhaps even a green witch. I think she just wrote a book on green witchery. I love that. You can see where they've been and she's taking them down. And that comes across because the book that accompanies this deck is just beautiful. So I guess to sum it up, a deck that was very abstract, busy, how I described as cognitive overload has been replaced by a deck that I find to be warm, evocative, nature infused, ideal for gleaning messages from the images, from the stories, great for intuitive hits. I find it visually captivating. It's clear. I mean, you still get the nods to the RWS with the stories, the images, but it has that witchy theme to it. It's such a strong earth-centric theme, which I love. Look at the wands, how beautiful is that? And if you prefer something quite gentle, then, you know, this deck isn't confronting. It gives you honesty when reading with it, but in a very gentle way. And they really are like storybook pictures, aren't they? As a lot of Llewellyn decks are that are in this sort of category. The ones that I mentioned earlier. I love that King of Wands. Look how content he is. Oh. That always makes me smile. I always think of Hansel and Gretel. But yeah, it's lovely. When you think of the Six of Cups as well, you know, the card of nostalgia, they'll grow up and they'll think back to this time. And to be fair, I talked about the card stock not being as great, and you know, it's a difference of 13 cards, as I said, but I have seen worse. I do think the Hidden Realms was worse than this, and also the Wonderland. So there you are. That is gonna be my deck for July. The Greenwich Tarot by Anne Mora, artwork by Kiri Ostergaard Leonard. Do you have it? Let me know your thoughts. It is still available. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on the deck. I love it. It's one of my favourite decks. Dare I say, even if I was to do a top 10, that this would be in there. It gets harder now that I've got over 1,000 decks. It gets much harder to have a top 10, but it's certainly one that is very close to my heart, and I've always enjoyed reading with it. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for allowing me to explain the reason why I'm switching out a deck for this month. And yeah, I'll be back. I'll be back before this, but I'll be back at the end of the month to let you know how I got on with this. And perhaps now, how it will even pair with the beautiful Metanoia tarot deck. All right, thanks for watching, everyone. And until next time, go in peace. Namaste. And blessed be.